Hello and welcome to another Cube breakdown. Today we're looking at a pop instrumental. I did actually do it as the first part as part of the real-time composing the other week, and then this is what has eventually come out of it, and basically we've got rid of the guitars. Don't forget, like and subscribe. It's always appreciated if you like this sort of stuff, because then you'll get reminded when it comes up again. What I'll do is I will play it through for you and highlight some of the MIDI tracks as we go, and then I'll come back and break it down for you. Okay, so let's go through what is involved in this track. The best way to think of it is there is a main theme tune and a piano accompaniment. It's probably the easiest way of thinking of it. So you've got right hand and left hand piano. If I do end up putting this sort of track together with pianos, I do tend to separate out the left and the right hands, just because you get a little bit more control. So the left hand just starts off with some simple bass notes here. And then it is joined by the right hand accompaniment. Okay, so there's the sort of introduction riff. Then we've got this middle 8 sort of riff. A bit more suspenseful. And then towards the end, we go back to those original chords, but in a slightly different pattern. So accompanying all of that, we've got these spiccato violins to start with. And these continue all the way through, just with different patterns. When we get to the middle 8, we've got this. So a bit more broken. And when we get to this second half of the B section, we also bring in the violas and the cello to beef up that, and hopefully you would have heard that as we were going through the initial playthrough. So this gives a lot more depth to that build up, and you notice at the end we go up into the final section. Which sounds a bit odd out of context because there's nothing else filling in those gaps. The cello go from spiccato, and then I've put legato on a separate track here instead of doing key switching. I tend to find it's easier to organise my thoughts that way, but this pretty much takes on a sort of melodic line, just going up and then back down and then up to end. That is similar to what the synth is doing here. So we've got Polaris synth here. So we'll come back to bass in a sec. So that is a form of a tune. Then this becomes accompaniment really. And yeah, let's go back to the bass because that's a constant throughout as well. It just gets more complicated as the track goes on. So we start off with these single notes and then walk down. And then later on, we get to a more sort of octave bass, and then we've got octave bass but more notes, and that's a more regular octave bass pattern that you might expect to hear in a sort of poppy song. I've also got the glock outlining parts of the melody. It sort of fits with the synth lead, and originally this synth lead started right at the beginning, but it sounded much better just having the glock introduce that melody. So you'll notice that melody is the same as this one. But we have the glock introduce it, but when the synth takes over, the glock takes a back seat, accenting notes. If we play them both together. And then we've just got a drum track, which is the pop songwriter from Logic Drummer. And as you can see, I have varied the intensity and complexity and which parts of the drum kit are playing. So in the first half of the breakdown, we've just got those toms, then we bring in the kick and the snare for the second half. It's got some nice fills in it as well. Then we've got the kick and snare, and here we've got the hi-hats back in. The introduction was simply hi-hats. There's some nice little variations where not quite so between open and closed. In terms of mixing, I've done the basic balancing of the different tracks with each other. Some of the instruments, for example, this low piano, the left hand, I've taken out the top end so it doesn't cut through, and scooped out some of the low so the bass will be heard. For the electric bass, actually, I have made sure it is only registering in that lower octaves. The strings have got Air Studio reverb on them to put them in the Air Hall. The electric bass I've had a bit of a play around with phase and distortion, and yeah, like we took out the bottom, this is making sure that the top from the bass doesn't ring through. The synth has only got a stereo delay on it, the glock again in Air, and the drums put in Air Studios as well. So they all sound like they're in a similar space. That's about it for today. I'll play it again as an outro and click between the different MIDI tracks so you can follow along. Don't forget, like and subscribe, always appreciated, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.